program was built and developed by the Wayne State Institute of Gerontology. And I had been a grad student at Wayne State just a few years ago in a communications program, and then had taken health communications and decided I really wanted to focus on gerontology, and in particular, the study of dementia and Alzheimer's. And so I got connected with the folks at the Institute of Gerontology at Wayne and made friends with Donna. I've attended a number of their programs. They're always excellent once they are able to do programs again. I highly recommend them. And Donna asked me, asked me if I was interested in potentially learning the program and becoming a speaker for them as a volunteer. So I said, absolutely. And I went through training with them, and I'm on their volunteer staff. And we do this program Brainstorm for senior service community organizations. We've done it in residential facilities as well. And it's based in science. It's a lot of fun. And we take a different topic every month, and I've really enjoyed being part of it. I did end up completing my graduate degree in gerontology. I did study Alzheimer's and dementia, and even though I'm an engineer by day, I'm retiring in a couple of years and hope that I can work more in aging services once I leave my day job. So looking forward to that a couple of years from now. So it's been so much fun working with Marianne and being with all of you these past few months. And today we're going to talk about music and the magic of music and how the brain processes music and retains music. It's really interesting to learn, and we're going to have a little fun along the way too. We're going to try to do a little singing. My throat was just cracking, so I hope I'm up for singing a couple of songs here. So I hope you all are too, because I'm going to encourage you to.
Okay, great. Well, I am recording, and so once you share your screen, it looks like we are getting the little green phone. So what I did, and Josetta will be so proud of me, is I did a snapshot of you in your little square. And when I go to record, I'll just put your picture over that phone. And so when we have the recording, we'll have your picture. Okay, Rhonda?
Okay, great. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
No, that's okay. We're glad you're here.
Yeah, my internet just isn't always as consistent, and I get complaints about it through the computer. So I thought, we don't want to risk it. So that's why I did the dial in. But like I said, I want to talk to you about music today and the magic of music, and talk a little bit about some of the science behind what the brain does here. So a couple things we're going to touch on today is I'm going to encourage you to enjoy music because it's really good for your brain, and it really does help you cement memories, especially if that music is associated with an emotional event like a family member's birthday or a holiday party or something like that. It really stitches it all together in our memory and keeps it there for us. We are going to talk about the regions of the brain and how it is that we can remember music when we start losing our memory in other ways, and go through some of those kinds of things. And we're going to have some fun together. We're going to test our dominant, non-dominant hands a little bit with some exercises. You might remember that from a few sessions ago if you were part of that one a little while back. And I do have a little external speaker here sitting with me so that when I play these little pieces of songs, hopefully you'll be able to hear them through my phone okay. So we may do a little test here. I don't want you to name this tune out loud, but if you know it, hold on to the answer, and then we'll all share together. So I'm going to try one of these. Whoops, and we're going to see if we can get the sound the way we want it. Go back to the beginning. Okay, that one probably had some familiarity. Did you hear that one okay, everybody? You can nod if you're muted. Yep. Okay, yes, great. Was it too loud or was it okay? It was okay?
It was okay.
Thumbs up? All right, great. Thank you, because we're working with a lot of technology here. So I'm going to play another one. Okay, hopefully you got enough of the chorus on that one to sort out what it was. And then we have a seasonal favorite here that we'll do next. Let's get back to it. Oops. All right. I think hopefully that one was an easy one. If Marianne, if we could unmute, we'll take some guesses from people here on what those three songs were. That first one was a childhood tune.
Pop Goes the Weasel.
Yeah, excellent. The second one was a Romance Gone Wrong.
Won't you come back, Bill Bailey?
Won't you come home,
That's
Bill
right.
Bailey?
Won't you come home, Bill Bailey? Yeah. And then the last one.
Wish you a Merry Christmas.
That one was pretty fresh for us, wasn't it? Since we're just coming off the Christmas holiday. So those were fun. We're going to have a couple more song snippets as we go on through the material. But what's so interesting is that even though you may not have sung the first or the second one in a long time, how many of you, show of hands, remembered the words to the first and the second tune as you heard them? Many? Yeah. And you probably haven't sung Pop Goes the Weasel for a long time, unless you have grandbabies. Maybe you sing it to them. But Won't You Come Home, Bill Bailey, I was sitting here thinking before I played it, do I remember all the words to that? And I wasn't quite 100%, but I was getting pretty close. And I'm telling you, I know I haven't heard that song in a long, long time, many, many years. So it's so interesting, you know, what our memory and our brain does with that. So what's really fascinating about this is that music, based on neurological studies, does not appear to be stored in the same area as our regular memories are. And I did look up a little bit of study work this morning just to see if there was very much else out there on that. And really what I found is that researchers believe that music memory networks are thought to be separate from our traditional, what we call temporal lobe memory networks. Now I have my little brain here, and if you do see me on the screen, I'm holding it up, my little brain model here. And so when we talk about the lobes of the brain, we want to remember here in the green, right here, that's our frontal lobe, right? Our temporal lobe, think about your temple here, right above your ear. It really runs as a band over the whole portion of the brain there. And if you were looking at a cross section of it, all the way down through into deep in the brain runs the temporal, and that's where the hippocampus lies, is within that temporal brain region. And the hippocampus, which we've talked about in previous sessions, is the librarian of our memories, right? But researchers are saying not true for music. This normal memory system in that lobe is not true for music. And that when we put MRIs on people and play music for them, what we see is an enlightening of all of the regions of the brain. That music has this phenomenal way of lighting up the brain, and that different regions of the brain support the retention of music and the encoding of music into memory for us. So it's not as though we can say, oh, it's one particular region of the brain. If we could keep that region healthy, we wouldn't ever lose any of our memory. This is also a reason why when we do see folks with Alzheimer's and other dementias, other disease-related dementias, and they're starting to lose their short-term memory, that is impacted in that hippocampus region. And so that region starts to shrink in size. And then, of course, the bad proteins are moving on the move in the brain. And that temporal lobe is typically where they strike first. So the frontal lobe is next from an Alzheimer's standpoint. And what's really nice about music is researchers believe that the parietal and the, let's see here, the parietal lobe, I guess that's all I took down here, and other lobes. Oh, the frontal and the parietal. Sorry, the frontal and the parietal regions of the brain may have the most to do with music. And it's a unique stimuli for us. So it effectively changes people with Alzheimer's related dementia. There have been many cases where you'll find a fairly advanced dementia patient who may not be very responsive anymore. And they've done a lot of studies where they'll put headphones on them and have developed a playlist for them of music that would have been popular back when they were in their, say, 20s and 30s and even their teen years. And they light right up and they respond to it. They perk up. They'll start clapping, head nodding, tapping their feet. It's really quite amazing. It doesn't fix the brain. But what it does do is gives someone who's suffering from dementia a wonderful experience, a way to be aroused in a positive way and reactivate those regions of the brain and to be more engaged in their surroundings if they're listening to music and they're involved in singing or music therapy or anything like that as well. Can be very, very helpful. So the strange case here of the Forgetful Cellist is a case that in 2012 in Germany, they studied a 68-year-old cello player, and he'd had a very bad virus that had left him with a profound amnesia. He didn't know anything about his professional or personal past, his family, his friends. He couldn't acquire and retain new information, but he could sight read and he could play his cello. So even though his brain suffered damage from that virus in so many other ways, he was still able to pick up his instrument and play music and read music and learn new music. And so it just shows you the resiliency in the brain around music and why that's so important to us. So music pulls the brain together, if you will. So, you've seen, I'm sure, shots of MRIs, and of course we see them all on medical shows, right? The superimposed lighting up of regions of the brain. But it really is what happens when we play and listen to music. These areas of the brain talk to each other. They send neuronal signals back and forth to one another. These neural pathways are then built, strengthening the regions of the brain. It bridges the brain network together and helps keep the brain healthy to sharpen memory, language, and observation. And if we've started playing before the age of 9, studying an instrument before the age of 9, we have a tremendous advantage for brain health later in life. And that's quite an interesting study, because I was thinking back, I played a clarinet from 3rd grade through 12th grade. So that's 9 years. So in 3rd grade, I would have been just about 9 years old, right? Maybe I was on the younger end of my class. So I think I might have been 8 at the beginning of that school year and played for all of those years. So not only does that, as a child is learning to play music, it creates those pathways between the right and left hemispheres of the brain and between those regions of the brain. But what research is telling us is that it strengthens the brain for the long term as well, to have played music and studied music. So let's have a little rhythm exercise here. So this is one of those dominant exercises. I'm going to have to trust you to look at your feet. I'm going to look at mine here. We're not going to play music for this one. I'll just talk you through this one. So tap one foot on the floor. Just start a tapping, tap, tap, tap. Turn the opposite foot in and out, but keep the heel on the floor while you continue tapping. Do both tasks simultaneously. Did your other foot start turning? The tapping foot, has it started to try to turn with the turning foot? Mine has. Now switch them. Tap with the opposite foot and try the turning with the other one simultaneously. I start out okay, but invariably my tapping foot starts turning, tapping, left, right, left, right. So it's very hard for us to do this in the brain and to have these two regions.
I was doing it just perfectly until you said, is your other foot doing it too? And as soon as
turning,
you said that, it started doing it.
The power of suggestion, right? Okay, now let's take your hands and let's do this either on a tabletop or on your thighs. So do tap, tap, tap with one hand, and then leave the heel of your hand down and turn the other hand. See if you can do this simultaneously. One's tapping and the other hand's just turning in a position. All right, switch hands. Go tap, 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 and then start turning the other one. Okay, so let's share some findings. I'm a lefty, so I was tapping with my left and doing completely fine in isolation with my right with the turning. But when I shifted to tap with my right, my left hand my left hand was turning and my right hand wants to turn and tap. It wants to do both. It won't separate. What did everybody else experience with that?
I did much better with the hands. With the feet, they started going together. With the hands, I could pretty much do.
Yeah. I feel like we've had more learning with our hands, right? Because of writing
Yes.
and doing tasks and things like that. So maybe we have better neuronal connections to our hands from our brain than we do with our feet.
My mom was ambidextrous. I think I'm a little ambidextrous too, because I started playing a game with my son where you shoot the guns, and I couldn't shoot it with my right hand and hit anything. And it wasn't working, so I started shooting with my right hand, and I could hit the targets. I'm going, hey, I'm left-handed now.
Yeah, yeah. I know. Or left-eyed, right?
Maybe, yeah.
I'm a little
Raquel?
ambidextrous. Yeah.
So if you're not very good at either one of these tasks, what does that tell?
Well, I don't know if we have a conclusion about that, but it might be good for you to practice because what you want to do in your brain is create that non-dominant capability. So, if you took your dominant hand and just did the tapping, you'd be fine, right? If that's all you were doing. But now once you add a variability to it, right, then both hands want to go the same way. So you might start trying some exercises with your non-dominant hand. We talked a couple modules back about brushing your teeth with your non-dominant hand as an easy thing you can do. The more you strengthen the capability of your non-dominant hand, the more neuronal connections your brain will build. So in other words, it's a use-lose, right? And because we grew up never having to use it, we don't have a capability there. But if you start trying to use it, you're going to build some capability. You're going to build synapses across the two hemispheres of your brain, which are good for you, right? That means that you're creating new brain tissue, which is wonderful because the brain is a plastic organ. It likes to grow new tissue, but sometimes we have to stimulate it to do so. And that's a good way to do it. You can also stir, if you're cooking in the kitchen using a spatula or a spoon, use your other non-dominant hand. It feels awkward. It feels uncomfortable. You might feel clumsy or slow doing it, but the more you can do that, the more skill and strength that you will build in your capability to do that, and you're building brain cells and brain growth at the same time. So I think it's really probably just a sign of, if you were a clear right-handed person, Christine, are you right-handed? Yeah. So you were clearly right-handed. No one forced you to do anything with your wrong hand back in the day, and so you never did. And so there you go. I was left-handed. I was forced to do a lot of things with my right hand. My mother couldn't teach me to tie my shoes. Her sister, who was left-handed, showed me once, and I had it forever, right? And in school, of course, there were no left-handed scissors. Things like that. So a lot of things I grew up learning to do right-handed because I didn't have an option. I played girls softball and I throw left-handed, but I bat right-handed. I don't know why. It just felt better. So I'm a horrible golfer with either hand, so that's not a good example. But really just try some of those exercises using your non-dominant hand, even just writing with it, just practicing letters and practicing your name with it. God forbid anything should ever happen to us where we would lose the use of our dominant hand in life. But if we did, and we practice these other things, we know it's not a lost cause. We can recover and do some things. So dancing helps people with Parkinson's, and there's been a lot of research on this and some very specific dance and exercise classes to help people with Parkinson's that are designed just for Parkinson's patients. I have a girlfriend whose dad has Parkinson's, and he takes a modified exercise class that has him boxing, but in a very modified way, right, to help him manage his disease and get coordination back and maintain strength through the disease. So it basically, the research tells us that the symptoms have been greatly reduced for Parkinson's when patients respond to the external rhythms of music and dance. And again, as we talked about the brain, right? The brain responds to music in whole, not just in one region. And so it allows the brain to kind of overcome and overcompensate the areas that have been damaged based on the Parkinson's. So it's really, really good. We said music is so good with anyone with Alzheimer's as well. Dance probably would have to be supervised for anyone with Alzheimer's, especially if they had mobility issues. But just even a little chair dancing, right? Just moving to the rhythm of music and maybe even a light sort of a chair yoga with music, right? To do some light exercises would be a good thing to try with an Alzheimer's patient and be able to put a class together like that. If I get back to any advanced studies and research, that'd be something I'd be very interested in studying and setting up and seeing how people would do with it. Okay, so there's a video here that I'm going to play for you. There's a wonderful gentleman, Oliver Sacks, and he's worked with older adults who've had memory and other problems for his whole career. It's a short little statement of his, but he's talking about the healing effects of music. So let me get ready for that for you and make sure that my little speaker is on.
Where I work at hospital and in all of these old age homes where I also work, there are a lot of people who have Alzheimer's or dementias of one sort or another. Some of them are confused, some are agitated, some are lethargic, some have almost lost language, but all of them, without exception, respond to music, especially to old songs and songs they've once known. And these seem to touch springs of memory and emotion, which may be completely inaccessible to them. And it's most amazing to see people who are out of it and sort of suddenly respond to a music therapist and to a familiar song, and first they will smile and then perhaps start to keep time, and then they will join in and sort of regain that part, that time of their lives and that identity they had when they first heard the song. So it's almost an amazing thing to see and, of course, to experience. And that sort of lucidity and pleasure can last for, hours afterwards.
So I wanted to share a personal story with you about this. I did work as a hospice volunteer for 3 years, and I was a respite care provider, which means I would sit with the patient and give the family a break from their duties when they had someone in their home they were taking care of. I was with this wonderful woman, let's call her Mary because I can't use her real name, for 2 years. When I first met Mary, she was bedridden in a bedroom in the family's home, in a hospital bed that had been brought in with her. She was suffering from Alzheimer's, but she had a lot of good moments. She had a lot of good days and good moments within a day. Over the course of that next year, the family ended up having to move her hospital bed into their family room, right smack in the center of a small house. So her care became everything. It became just the focal point of the whole family, and her daughter and son-in-law were taking care of her, and the grandson also lived in the home. She loved music, and I'm going to show you a picture of her if you can see her. Can you see her? Maybe she's a little glared out there. lovely, lovely woman. I spent, like
Can't
I
see
say,
it.
2 years. You can't see it. Oh, yeah. Marianne, I can see me, but since I'm talking, maybe the
I have the phone, yeah, the green.
So,
green phone.
let me
Oh,
just
not-
do gallery. I have gallery on mine, so I can see the picture. Yeah.
You can?
So
Yeah.
see it,
I
you
see,
just have to
I
go
see you,
up to
Marianne.
view and go to gallery.
I, s- yeah.
If you go to the view and go to gallery, and
Okay.
so Mary was very particular about having her nails done and keeping lipstick on, and you know, I would come and I would sit with her for 1 or 2 hours at a time, and I have, of course, a smartphone, and of course you can get to almost any music you want to on a smartphone, and I brought a little external speaker, and I asked her, you know, what music she liked, and she liked a lot of classic country, Johnny Cash, Ray Price, you know, a lot of that, what I'll call late 50s, 1960s classic country, some of it honky tonk, some of it love song. I love that music. To me, it's my childhood, so it's riddled with memories for me. So I would punch these songs up and play them for her, and we'd sing along, and I'd bring songbooks over, and we'd pick out songs. I have one of my songbooks here, and we'd pick out songs like How Much Is That Doggy in the Window? I'm sure many of you remember maybe singing that or having a parent sing it to you. Oh, You Beautiful Doll, You Are My Sunshine. And, you know, she knew the lyrics. I had the lyric sheets in front of me, but she knew the lyrics. And even though we might have just been talking and she might have told me the same anecdote 5 times in the last half hour, right? Which is A-okay. I mean, that's what you have to understand about an Alzheimer's patient. And you just say, or you distract, you know, you change the subject, you get on a different subject, but you don't correct, you don't argue, you don't do those things. But as soon as we'd play some music, she would just know it, and she'd perk up, she'd sit up a little bit, and she'd clap her hands. And over time, over 2 years, you know, I could see what the disease had done to her in terms of the deterioration of the rest of her brain. And when she had a beautiful singing voice as well. And she got very self-conscious about it over time and stopped wanting to sing. But she wanted me to sing. So then I brought her a tambourine and a maraca, so that she could add rhythm while we sang the songs or while we played recorded music. And so then we did that for a while. And then after that, you know, we got to the point nearing the end of her life, probably in the last 3 or 4 months, where I'd try to play music just to calm her because she was agitated so much of the time. She was, you know, actively hallucinating, seeing giant bugs on the wall, snakes. She saw people in the room. She'd asked me to ask the little girl to leave. I mean, it was really startling and quite sad. And I think it's a terribly sad ending for someone to have to go through that, and for their family to live with that as well. But she really blessed my life, made a big difference and a big impression on me. And I saw firsthand how powerful music therapy was in those circumstances. And really up until the very end, I could even play music just to calm her. We wouldn't sing along or anything, but it would just calm her, and then she might drift off and sleep for a little while. So if any of you have a family member, a loved one, you know, who is suffering from dementia, Alzheimer's related or not, you know, I hope that you'll consider adding some music therapy into the day for your loved one, because it does make a huge difference. So there was a big project, I know, I think 60 Minutes featured it a few years back, called the Music and Memory Project, where personalized playlists were put together for older people, and iPods and headphones were donated. And I'll never forget the one gentleman who was sitting in a residential facility, a memory care facility, and he just looked so sad and lonely and dejected, and was kind of just like slumped over with his head on his hand. And they approached him and they put the headphones on him and they got the music going, and he did just as the gentleman in the video explained. He sat right up. He started moving with the rhythm of the music. Pretty soon he had a great big smile on his face, and then he was singing along, and he had been nonverbal there in the residential facility for quite some time. So just really a miraculous way to, you know, to deliver a positive experience to someone who is suffering. So, you know, in his case, as it says here on the slide, language emerged, and that no one had heard him say anything for a long, long time. So that music allowed those recesses in his brain to be touched by the music memory. And this is the thing that science is studying, is because music stores in so many different areas of the brain than just the temporal lobe, right, where memory is encoded. Music is a very powerful healer for the brain, and a way to reach back into those other emotionally charged memories and bring them forward. Does it fix the brain? No, it isn't going to repair brain tissue that is dying. But does it affect the quality of life? Yes, very positively. And so some of, you know, what was lost might be regained for short periods of time with a music therapy. All right, I think it might be time to go to some more music here. Let's talk a little bit about the top 5 reasons for music. It evokes emotions that bring memories. We've touched on that, right? That musical, hearing music and singing music brings memories up and touches emotion in us. That aptitude and appreciation are 2 of the last remaining abilities in dementia patients, the ability to appreciate music. So music can go a long period of the course of dementia. In the case of Mary, everybody's journey is different, but from the time she was diagnosed until the time she passed away, it was probably a 6-year period. Imagine the stress of that on a family. Very, very stressful. But the music was there for her so much of the time. Also, at the end, she was convinced her daughter was poisoning her. She wouldn't eat anything. I mean, the psychosis that emerged from the brain damage was, you know, really alarming. And there was little to be done for it other than some drugs to help keep her a little bit lightly sedated and keep her from becoming too agitated. Other great things about music is, as I said, it ties that emotional thread into it, and that can help us feel physically closer to someone perhaps who's been disengaged, right, and who won't allow for a hug or anything like that. So, or a holding of a hand. Singing is very engaging, and it can shift our mood, help us manage stress, and stimulate positive interactions. So, how many of you have a song that can shift your mood depending on what it's tied to? I have a particular song, "The Wind Beneath My Wings." Probably many of you remember that after my brother passed away, if that song came on the radio, I literally had to pull off the road because grief would just come over me in such a strong way that I couldn't even drive. And you know, that's one of those, you know, memories and emotional reactions.
Chair yoga, and it says the host is in another
Yeah,
meeting.
chair yoga is at 2:30 today.
It's at 2:30 today?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Got all kinds of stuff going on today, huh, Marianne?
Oh God, I apologize to everyone.
Oh no, that's no problem. No problem. So let's do a little bit more recognition here. And again, I'll ask you to hold your list. If you have a pencil or something to write with, that'll be great. But we're going to play some instruments here. I'm going to see if you can recognize them. So let me start that.
Harp.
Okay, we'll go to number 2. There's a high-pitched instrument you need to listen for in this one. Oops, come back. Oops, sorry, that was number 1 again. There we go. try number 3. Number 4. That was short. I'll do it again. Alrighty. And there are 3 instruments in number 5. And then number 6. Okay, so let's take some guesses here. How about number 1?
Harp.
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 Yep,
Yeah.
that was
Yep.
hard.
Yep. Excellent. Excellent. How about the high-pitched instrument in number 2?
I heard
Flute.
xylophone.
Calliope.
Flute.
I thought I heard both a flute and a piccolo. So, but the answer sheet says flute. So that was good. How about number 3?
Drums
Drums.
and
Mhm.
cymbal.
And a cymbal, right? Yeah, definitely the cymbal. How about number 4?
Whistle?
That one was a little tougher because it was a really short sound segment. It was bells, and I think of it as a jingle bell, probably, as opposed to a bell that you would tap with a mallet. How about the 3 instruments in number 5?
I heard an organ and a trombone.
Drums and a horn
Uh,
and a sax.
I heard a tuba.
okay,
Snare drum,
Okay.
bass drum, bass guitar.
Oh,
yeah, there you go. The bass guitar is what you might have been identifying as a trombone or a tuba, was that thrum of the bass line in those 3 instruments.
I get
And
one.
then what were the instruments in number 6?
Trombone.
I heard a
Saxophone?
bassoon.
Trombone or sax?
Sax, clarinet. So what we would call the woodwind instruments. Absolutely. There you go. Good job, everybody, especially in our impaired technical circumstances. So, as I mentioned earlier on, if you were a musician, musical training before age 9 has long-term benefits. Early musicians maintain good verbal and working memory throughout old age. And if you played an instrument for at least 10 years at any time in your life, you will show cognitive thinking and memory benefits as you age. Well, I only played that clarinet for 9 years, doggone it. So I fell short a year. But I've been a singer for a lot of my life in church choir, and then on in a couple of bands too when I was older. And my husband is a musician. He has played since he was, probably a middle schooler, and is in his later 60s now, and is still playing. So in fact, he got a new guitar from me for Christmas. So hopefully that will really help sustain his brain health as we both go on into aging. So if we were together, we would have played a kazoo together. We could have made some homemade ones from combs and wax paper. I would have brought clean new combs, I promise. But since we're not together, we can't do that. But it's fun to do. So if you do have combs around the house and some wax paper, you can make a homemade kazoo. The other thing I'll say about singing and playing is it's really good for your lungs too, because you're exercising your breathing. I'll never forget my musical instructor, who was this fiery Italian guy who went on to get his PhD and ended his career as a pretty renowned conductor at Oberlin in Ohio. And I feel so lucky that we got to have him as this ragtag group of little kids, right? But he taught us to breathe very early on in our learning how to play instruments, and breathe using your diaphragm when you need to get the biggest breath, right? So when you take in a breath and your shoulders move up and down, you're just using your lungs. You're going, and your shoulders go up and down. Your diaphragm is that muscle that sits on top of the stomach underneath the lungs. And so you need to try to do an abdominal breathing where you take in air less from your lungs and more from using that diaphragm to push your lungs. And so this starts to become more natural as you do it over time if you've never practiced diaphragmatic breathing. But if you're singing or playing, it's the kind of breathing you must do to give you the air to get through a stanza, to get through a sheet of music, you know, to get through to the next pause in the music where you can actually take a breath. And Mr. Knight, who was that fiery Italian, would throw his baton at us if he saw our shoulders rising up and down while we were playing. Now, today, that's probably not acceptable, but when I was in elementary school, that was part of the program. So, you know, anytime you can do anything musically, playing or singing, you're also helping your lungs. And as we age, we really want to do what we can to exercise our lungs, especially if we're not getting, you know, the cardiovascular exercise that we used to get. My stepfather, who I was also a caregiver for and a care coordinator for at the end of his life, was a whistler. And he could whistle on key, and oh my gosh, he whistled beautifully. People at events would have him whistle. And in his latter years in life, you know, he had to ride an electric scooter. And so he would go out to Walmart. He'd get a ride out to go do his grocery shopping. And he'd go out to Walmart and he'd sit in the middle of an aisle and he'd whistle the Star Spangled Banner and patriotic tunes. And people would come from places in the store to see who that was, where that whistling was coming from. And I have to say, he just dearly loved the attention. He loved for people to compliment his whistling. And in earlier years, my husband had recorded him and put musical instrumentation behind his whistling. So we have a great CD of about 8 songs that my stepdad did. And I burned a bunch of extra copies of it for him when he was in his assisted care facility prior to his death. And he would press those on every nurse, every caregiver, even if he'd already given them one, because he also had dementia. So he didn't remember very well, but he could do puzzles and he could whistle. And both of those gave him great peace in a time where, you know, otherwise he wouldn't have had a lot of peace. So, all right, we're going to sing together now. And if we had kazoos, we'd be doing this on a kazoo, but the lyrics are here. I don't know if I'm going to come in at the right key or not, but I'll give it a shot. So how about we'll just start. Oh, when those saints
Come
marching in. Oh, when those saints come marching in.
Oh, how I want to be in that number when
the saints come marching in. Yay! Good job, everybody. That's great. That's wonderful. That was fun. All right, we're going to sing a little bit more now. We're going to do an in the round, and I'm sure everybody's done this one, right? From childhood forward. So you know how it goes. Row, row, row your boat. And then the next group starts row, row, row your boat. So we'll only do 2 groups, not to complicate it too much. And boy, this is going to be tough to figure out how to split people. Mike, are you the only gentleman we have on today?
Well, I wouldn't know because I don't see anybody.
I don't even.
Oh, okay. Well,
Rhonda,
how about if we...
Rhonda?
Yeah.
May I suggest that the first row, at least on my computer screen, be the first group, and then the second row be the second group.
It's kind of different on everyone's computer, Christine.
How about alphabetical order of your last name or first name?
Okay.
That works.
Well, I see 4. I see myself, Christine, Mike, and Josetta.
There's 20.
So how about
There's
we're the first
26
round?
of us.
There's
Oh
20.
my word!
Yeah.
It's more than 2 groups.
How about
Alphabetically.
we do the women and the men?
Okay,
There's
let's
not
do
enough
that.
men.
I'm gonna
All
act
right,
like
you want-
I'm gonna do it, but you don't want to hear my voice.
All right, you can put your mute on. Like I will.
we'll start out with the women then. We'll start out the first verse, and guys, you come in after the first row, row, row your boat, singing row, row, row your boat. Ladies, we carry on the tune. So here we go. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream.
Merrily, merrily, life is but a dream.
Yay! I'm going to give us a lot of applause.
Oh my word.
Wait a minute.
Rhonda, you sing too slow. We're all like, row, row, row your boat. And Rhonda, row, row, row your boat.
But there's,
It's hard to pull those oars. It's hard. So we have to go slow.
there's
It
also
is hard.
there's also a relay. I mean, so that from one to the other. So that's why you really can't ever do anything like this, even if
Yeah,
we
there's a delay.
delay. Yeah, I know. I was.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yep, exactly over the technology. So if we were in a room, we probably would have done a little better together, and we could have had a metronome or one of us showing how to keep time in the front of the room, right? So, but it was a good try. Everybody gets an A for our efforts here today. So, so also let's see. I want to make sure about that. So do you remember this song from childhood? We're not going to sing it, but it's another one of those that you can do in the round.
Yeah.
You might remember it in French, Frère Jacques.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the same song. So this is another one that, that can be done in the round. Yep. Are there any other songs from childhood that you especially remember, or that you may have brought back and used with your grandchildren as well?
Three Blind Mice.
Three Blind Mice. Yeah, that's a fun one.
Mersey Dotes.
Oh, sure. Mersey Dotes and Dozy Dotes. Yep.
Patty cakes.
Oh, sure.
With
Everybody.
And everything. And the other one,
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the other people, and I don't know if it might have been just me with therapy, but we had one, where is Stumpkin? And
Oh yeah, Thumbelina.
Fred.
Pumpkin.
How about Ring Around
Yeah.
the Rosie?
Yep. Ring Around the Rosie. That's another great one. Yeah. And what's wonderful about those is that they are, they span generations. They're really timeless, aren't they? And and especially young children love learning music, love songs. I just cleaned out the remaining Disney DVDs and CDs that I have to send to my great niece, who has two little girls. She's got a 2-year-old and a brand new baby girl. And her husband was looking for 101 Dalmatians online, and the DVD of that is selling for over $100. And I didn't have 101 anymore, but I had 102, the sequel. So I just told him, I said, I need to be decluttering anyway. I don't have any little grandchildren. I'll probably subscribe to Disney when that day occurs. So I'm just going to bundle all these up and send them to you this week. And he's like, well, I'll pay you for them. And I said, no, you're doing me a service. You're getting clutter out of my house.
Right.
So that was kind of fun to go find all those things. So listening to music as a therapy can also be used to help decrease our perception of pain. It distracts us, right? And it raises our level of endorphins. And so it takes our mind away from the feel bad, because we're getting the feel good chemicals as a result of it. So it's a really powerful resource for the visually impaired. It encourages us to move around and exercise more vigorously. Anybody like to play music and dance while they're keeping house? Give that vacuum cleaner a good old Motown turn or two. And it improves sleep quality too after listening to soft music at bedtime. So we need to bring down our screen time, bring down our general attention at night as we prepare for bed, and soft music can help do that. And it really brings us together at events. It brings us together in our church ceremonies, our synagogue ceremonies, right? It brings us together deeply, connects us there. And I know I felt such a deep connection yesterday watching the inauguration and listening to all the music during the inauguration. I was so moved. It was really a wonderful, beautiful ceremony. So music can really evoke emotion in us. And let's look for the positive ways that it can do that when we want to use it as a therapy tool. So we're going to try a couple more rhythm exercises here. We're going to start with lazy eights. And again, we'll start with one hand. And so this is like the infinity symbol, if you will. So if you can draw a figure eight, like it's lying down on its side with your finger, right? There you go. Now add your other hand and do two at a time. And see if you can maintain your figures and not have your hands get confused. Doing okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
That one's not too bad, is it? Mine wants, oh, now I started doing circles. Okay, now I just started doing circles. So my hand said, we're tired of the lazy eights. We're going to do circles. So, okay, now let's do this finger spread exercise. So you hold both hands up with your palms facing away from you, and you open and close both hands continuously, like make a fist and open them back up, right? Next, spread the fingers of both hands out and back. So out and in, out and in, out and in. Now try to do one of each. Try to do out and in with one hand while closing and opening with the other. It's really difficult for me. I don't know about you all. And then try to switch hands. I really have a hard time doing it simultaneously. It's like I can do one and then quickly do the other, you know, and I can do them quickly, but to do them simultaneously is very tough. Now, if I switch hands, let's see, I really have to concentrate here. Out and in. They want to start mimicking one another. They really want to do the same thing. These are more of those exercises that will help you build that non-dominant hand capability and strength. It's hard to do, though. It's a really difficult one. Now, if we were together, we'd have partners and we'd do patty cake together. But since we don't, we can't. But let's bookmark a future day post-COVID when we can do one of these sessions together again, and we'll reprise the best of Brainstorm and do some of these fun exercises together. I would like that. I think everybody would.
I would like to get all the paint on our hands.
Yeah, that looked like fun, didn't it?
That would be fun. I would like that.
So we're going to play some songs here from the 40s.
You're my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away.
This one's from 1947.
Jeez. I don't know that one.
I can just see a big dance floor with this one. All righty, I'll go on and we'll listen to a little bit of music from the fabulous 50s here.
I don't understand though why. It doesn't like lock in place like this.
When the moon hits your eye like a sugar pizza pie, that's amore. When the world seems to shine like it had too much wine, that's amore.
I remember that as a kid.
Oh, poor thing.
Angel, all the time. I'm just a fool of fooling along with you.
Okay, and we'll go on to the 60s. Oops, I thought we were going to go on to the 60s. I guess we were done. Oh, I'm sorry about that. That caught us up short. The point of playing those older generational songs, though, are that the loved ones that we might have who would benefit from music theory might be from those generations, right? My dad is 87. He does not, my biological dad, he does not have dementia. He still listens to the music he always loved, which was more country as well. When I do road trips with him occasionally, because I don't like him driving by himself, and he has Willie's Roadhouse in his vehicle on satellite radio. So I'm telling you, after an 8-hour day of Willie's Roadhouse, you really do want a break from it. Sometimes I'm sneaky. He doesn't know I have hearing aids and they Bluetooth to my phone. So sometimes I'll just play my own music inside my head while his Willie's is playing on the car radio. So that gives me a little break from it. But I'm grateful every moment that we have that we can spend together doing those things, because I know we won't have them forever. So so think about music, as to things you can do now that will help you by adding more music into your life, by singing, by maybe if you had played an instrument in the past, maybe pick it up again, pick up a kazoo or one of those little, I forget what they call them, that the kids all start out with in elementary school. It's got like 8 holes on it, or pick up something you can pluck, a very simple
Piccolo.
string.
A recorder.
Yeah, well, piccolo might be better,
Yeah.
Recorder.
Yeah, recorder. That was it. Yeah, the recorder. And I also think even a small chime would be fun, right? A small set of chimes maybe to play and pick out notes on. Just good for your brain, really good for your brain. And if you can sing and play, also good for your lungs. And then if you do have anyone that is suffering from memory loss, from dementia, look into music therapy as part of their day, because it really will make a difference for them and really put a smile on their faces. And with that, I think we are wrapped up, Marianne.
Yippee.
Marianne, are you on mute?
She might be.
She's not in the office.
She might be.
Have walked away.
Away from the desk if the computer.
She might have, she might have walked away. It sounded like things were a little crazy over there with the computers and people not being ready for classes. So, well, I'll go ahead and take us out here. Thank you all so much.
So can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What is your name?
It's Rhonda.
Okay, Rhonda, are you working with the IOG?
I am.
Okay, just a side bit, and you can put a little note here. I worked with the IOG probably 20, maybe 25 years ago. I worked with Operation Able Learning Centers with Dr. Mary McDougall, and the IOG and I put together a curriculum for how computers, because I was a computer instructor, and they wanted to know how computer instruction impacted the older octogenarians, the older seniors. And we put together a real nice long series of programs, and somebody from the IOG, I forget the young man's name, I helped him put this together so that we could just reference that and use actually real life people in our classroom, and we had them doing hands-on. And it was really, when I saw the IOG named here, I thought, wow, they're still around. Isn't that great? So I retired years ago, but I have fond memories of working with the Institute of Gerontology.
They are a great group. Thank you for sharing that, Mike. They may still be, I'm sure they've refreshed your content, but they may still be using it. I know I live over here on the east side, and the Helm is our senior services facility over here, and they offer classes to teach elders how to use a computer, how to use an iPad, you know, how to become familiar with the technology if they didn't grow up using it. I've been able to help my dad manage an iPad. He's 87 years old, never used a computer for work at all. And he loves his iPad. He looks for used cars on it all day long on Craigslist, and he gets to tell Google. He likes the voice activated. He'll say, Google, and then he'll just tell it what to go find, and it brings it up on the internet for him. He really enjoys it.
He loves that. Where there's a
Yeah,
great
he
need
does.
for services like that in the senior community. I'm typically a
is.
snowbird, and typically I'm down in Florida in Fort Myers this time of year, and I put together programs for our community, our senior center community, and people just sign up like crazy for that computer help program.
Yeah.
And there's always something you can do to help. But my interest here was very well enriched by your presentation, Rhonda. I'm now back in Michigan, not too far from Wayne State University, where I taught, in the Wayne State corridor, that is, and on Woodward Avenue. But I'm in Rochester Hills right now, and my mom is 90 years old, and she's showing a lot of the medium dementia signs, probably quite a bit. She gets around okay and everything, but we haven't used the music therapy because she refuses to use a hearing aid. And I think the headphone thing is going to really help. I'm wearing one, and I think it'll help. And if I can just get a playlist together, it's going to boost her mood. I'm sure of it. And maybe bridge some gaps, and like the neural path bridges that you were talking about. That was very interesting to me. So I am going to study some more of that, the frontiers in human neuroscience. I'm going to look at that too. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you for your.
I hope you have success.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Yeah, that's another thing, just another quick tip, Mike, for your mom is her long-term memory. There are still pieces of it that are quite intact. So if you can get her reminiscing about her girlhood and how she grew up and where she grew up, she could probably go all day on that.
When we do that, we spend hours doing that. Yes.
Yeah, great.
Yes.
Yep.
And I'm writing it all down because she's the last link to that era between 1930 and 35. And
so important to capture it. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, next month, everybody, we're going to do subduing stress. So we're going to talk about techniques and tactics to manage stress better in our lives, manage stress during a pandemic, right, when we're locked in so much of the time. So I'll look forward to seeing you all in a month, and hope you have a great rest of your day. And as always, it's been a pleasure to spend time with you today, and I will see you real soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Rhonda.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Everybody on